answer question about joystick support in
the document, yes.
XR. VR.
Is it the live version already? Or?
Yep.
Oh shit.
Did you hear us?
Say something.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello everybody. Just one more moment. We are
We know, yeah.
just some last preparations and then we are live. I think that we are actually already over the time, right?
It's only 2 minutes past 8. We are within acceptable parameters.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
With some delay. But
With some delay? Okay, good.
It's pretty quiet, but it could be the setting here. Okay. What exploded?
Nothing.
Owen leaves for 1 minute and everything breaks.
What?
Nothing. We're like, everyone can see us on stream. There is no worry.
I'm just checking for the XR VR video, so we can show that as well. But anyway, no, we'll leave it away. I forgot about that. Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to the December update or about X Rebirth VR edition, and about X4, and about everything else that has happened since September when we made the last update. I don't know how many of the people who are watching now also saw that we just had a pretty big event last week. We released X Rebirth VR edition out of early access, and also 3 other updates, important updates, a patch for the X3 games, for Terran Conflict and Albion Prelude, and a big update for the normal Rebirth, the non-VR edition, that introduced quite a lot of features from the VR edition, stuff that we have worked on during the last year when VR edition was developed, and which we backported over to the normal Rebirth, like the quick menu, and also added very recently much better support for joysticks and HOTAS systems. So this is was pretty big thing for us, and especially, of course, the VR edition release that was basically the work of a full year for us, and all of that was released with the what was it called, the EgoSoft event on Steam, where also all of our games were available for free playing for one entire weekend. Yeah, and now we are here to show you something about X4, the big new game next year, and the thing that, of course, for us is the biggest project. And maybe we can also compare this a little bit with the game you may have seen then last week, the VR edition, because many of the things that have been done for that will also benefit X4, like, for example, the improved joystick support. Matthias is sitting right next here, next to me. He's the guy who worked a lot on joysticks and adding much better support, especially for configurability for complicated systems with many axes. And this turns out it's really a lot of different setups out there, and we really had to add a lot of new functionality in the last year to allow for example the many axis configuration for rolling versus your axis when you steer the ship, and when you have 2 sticks also. I just read today about some guy who was playing with feet and 2 sticks. So yeah, all of that should at least theoretically be possible. But if you have one of the more widespread joystick setups, then maybe you even have a default profile with Rebirth and with the VR edition now. This is, I think, what was it called?
The Cytec X52 and the Thrustmaster Warthog system.
And there's also another profile, I think that's like generic joystick. I don't know.
Yeah, I basically used it with my very simple joystick that I have at home. It's just a starting point for people to configure their own joystick. It's just a suggestion that will probably not work for most joysticks because they are just so vastly different.
Yeah, yeah. I must say I personally underestimated how many people play with joysticks nowadays, because we especially in the beginning of X Rebirth, we focused a lot on gamepads, and then after a lot of criticism, especially in the early days of X Rebirth, we added a lot better support for mouse and keyboard, but the joystick was still a little bit neglected. Neglected, thank you. Fortunately, we have some native speakers here as well. Unfortunately, it took us a little longer than it should have to add proper support for joysticks with X Rebirth as well. But yeah, all of that will benefit X4, of course, from day one. So better. We also still want to do further improvements on how those setups can be configured, because that's still not perfect. We know that, especially people with. I mean, we always assume that people with such complicated joystick setups know how to deal with configuration menus and set these things up, because they probably have to do that in most games. But it still would be much nicer if the games come with a default profile where you just have to select the stick and then at least a good default configuration is there. So that's our goal with X4. Yeah, what are we going to talk about other than joysticks? Maybe we could start talking a little bit about what we have done since the last X4 live stream in September, and what we have added basically or worked on very recently. Maybe especially one change that we can show in some videos. Owen, maybe the cockpit now has a visible player. That's one really big change actually, and also a novelty for any X game. In the past it was only NPCs that you could see, but the people you see sitting in cockpits in some of the videos we are going to show today are actually the player. The player is not always the same person. I think we talked about that already in August, that there are different game starts, and every game start can and probably will have, I don't know, that's a topic for you, Lorraine. How many, will there be 2 game starts with the same person?
That's not the plan, no. The plan is to have each game start has their own unique player character with their own unique background that the player can delve a little more into through missions and stuff. There's actually something I'm really looking forward to working more on. The different game starts have all different people, and that's means I think you will see that in some of the videos that sometimes the player is actually a Teladi, and that's quite cool when you maybe by accident see yourself for the first time. You were not even thinking that you were Teladi. I mean, it's not like it's not very much in your face. Usually the game is not third person, like when you walk on a platform, then you're still first person and you don't immediately realize who you are. But when you go to external camera in a ship, for example, you can see your own NPC in the cockpit. Also even when you are standing behind the pilot, you can also see that in 1 or 2 of the videos that I, as a player, when I was recording this, I was standing behind the pilot, and I think we need a wave out of the window emote. That's something that I was missing in, I think, one of those ship videos. Yeah, so this is one of the bigger changes on in the last few months, very recently, and that's maybe something you can talk a little bit about, Matthias. We also worked on the lasers and how the angle in which they can move on ships is different. If you look, this video is a good example. You can see sometimes that all of our current lasers actually gimbal a little bit, so they have a cone in which they can aim.
It's a couple of degrees, I think maybe 10 at the moment, but that can of course change. We are currently thinking about or planning to have different variations of weapons that are that can gimbal, that can articulate, and others that cannot, and give you an advantage in some other area, probably more damage, maybe other things like lower prices or things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's this actually was a new decision for us. We didn't plan this originally, but it started with suggestions for user interface instruments that actually show you where your lasers are currently aiming at. And with most of the weapons at the moment, this is not necessary most of the time, because they gimbal relatively fast, and usually when your target is far enough away from your ship, then they can all reach the center of your crosshair or wherever you are targeting at with your mouse. But it turns out, or that's actually how we started this discussion, when you have a target very near your ship, especially the lock boxes, the crates from that we also introduced in X Rebirth, which are objects that you find in space where you sometimes have to target very precisely. You want to shoot at a lock on a box and shoot one lock after another. So you have to shoot at very small points on a already relatively small object. Then sometimes this was not possible, or it wasn't easy at least. So we thought about introducing these little dots, and most of the time they will converge to the center of the crosshair if they can. But since we have that already, and since we want to introduce that, we thought, well, maybe we also add weapons that take more advantage of that system, and for example also have lasers that have no gimbaling at all, and therefore are better on other things. So that's something we are currently working on, and probably maybe can show already the next time we're going to show something of the game. That was another feature. Of course, the travel mode and boosting. That's of course, that's also a topic for Matthias.
Maybe. Lucky that I'm here today.
Yeah, what a coincidence. Let me give you the microphone.
Okay.
So maybe you can say something about that.
Hello. Yes, I think we've already talked in the last live stream about having fewer systems with a lot of highways, or having also highways in general being way reduced. So it still has to be fun to travel in those big systems where you don't have a highway at all. And if you just fly through it at, I don't know, 300 meters per second, it will take you an hour to get to the next station, and yeah, it basically becomes an idle AFK game at that point. So we added a new mode. We had the boosting previously, and this is kind of like a version of boosting, but exists completely separately alongside it. You activate the thing, it's called travel mode, which slowly but powerfully accelerates you to a way higher top speed. It comes at a cost of rotation speed, so you cannot course correct as quickly when you're in travel mode, but it allows you to travel long distances in a much more reasonable time. And of course we have different types of engines like we had in X Rebirth. Some of these engines will be better at traveling, some of them will not be as good at travel mode, but they will all have it. So you will always have this feature in your ship.
Yeah, the part that I like very much about it is how it's not like a jump drive or something that you activate only after you decided your target and then just go on a straight line. But more that it allows you this kind of surfing behavior, and even combined with highways. I mean, it's already possible now, but I mean, this is just at the start. We are really just starting to balance this feature, but sometimes it really feels very cool when you get out of a highway and you try to keep as much as possible of the speed that the highway gives you and keep it in that travel drive, because gaining the speed is the thing that takes long with the travel drive, and that way you can basically use a highway to accelerate you and then go off to the sites and explore, for example. But yeah, this is the balance, it's all in the balancing in the end. We have to try out how fast that will be, and but I think this is a really nice system. We have the basic speed, the standard speed of the ship. We have the boost abilities, which is to get really fast away, but has only a usage for a very short period of time. Then you have the travel drive for like the opposite when you travel a long distance. And what we haven't mentioned in that regard, you also probably have Zeta. I mean, very likely. It's in the game at the moment, and we probably keep it, but we will have to see how we balance that, yes. how well it goes together. Because right now you have some, I had in the last couple of days some moments where I had travel drive and Zeta, and I was, it's crazy fast and hard to control the whole game. So.
Right now, travel drive is also a bit too fast.
Yeah, right now it is.
It's really nuts.
Yeah.
Maybe another important feature is that travel drive does not drain your shields.
Yes.
That was one of the complaints, that when you, in X Rebirth, wanted to get to a fight really quickly, you basically had the choice between getting there without shields or flying the last minute to the fight, recovering your shields, and possibly being too late. That wasn't very satisfying, wasn't very fun.
Yeah. Maybe we have to move on to the next feature, and we have prepared a couple of things before we take questions, I guess, and maybe we quickly show some of those things, like the flight assist thing. I started this whole talk here by talking a little bit about Rebirth and Rebirth VR edition, and the flight assistance is one of those features that's also was I think added relatively late in Rebirth. I don't know, was it 4.0 or?
I don't remember the version, but it was somewhat late in development. Yeah, it was way after the initial release.
So I don't know how many of the people who play Rebirth actually know this, but flight assist off mode, you can see it in this video here in X4 now, and this is something that is especially useful when you play with joystick. I mean, I was playing with this HOTAS thing a couple of weeks ago, and this is it has this mechanical big switch in the back, and this is mapped by default on turning flight assistance on and off, and this is really cool because your entire ship suddenly behaves differently. You can see it here. It doesn't. Yeah, it is more Newtonian. Is that the right way to describe it, Matthias?
Yeah, kind of like with flight assist on, the game basically just tries to keep you flying in the direction that you're pointing at. That's what the flight assist itself does. And when you turn it off, you keep your direction of movement that you have when you turn it off. You can still thrust and change your direction with that, but it's a way different behavior than it was before.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not fair to say it, but I mean, the easiest way to describe it is it feels more realistic if you turn it off. But it's also much harder to control. So it's definitely worth trying out. If you have X Rebirth, try it out already now in X Rebirth.
3.0 was the update where it came out.
Thank you.
Thank you, fact checkers.
Yeah. But anyway, it's still maybe a lot of people who haven't tried it, and it's definitely worth trying out. And you can already test one of the features of X4 then with X Rebirth. So the next one, what else did I put on the list? Did you already show the travel mode in action?
Not for long.
Yeah, maybe we show that video again shortly, because it also shows something else, and that's here you see a ship flying towards a gate, but this gate is not a normal gate, and it shows that we are trying to have a much more varied universe in terms of structure, and not just these the two extremes, the X Rebirth sector, a sector with highways that go usually in circles and gates, and then the X3 sectors where you only have the gates and nothing in between. But this is now a orbital accelerator. It's not finished yet. This is still early assets here, but it's a different way of extending systems and moving faster through the universe, and also for us a way to make the universe larger.
and especially useful for exploration areas like this. And you see it here in combination with the travel mode, because my ship doesn't lose speed when I go through that. In that regard, it's like a jump gate. You are not losing your momentum or your speed. And yeah, this is now you can see here that the ship's already, how fast is it going? Oh yeah, 2,000 meters per second. I think this is around about where we currently think the maximum for the travel mode should be, because we had it at I was at some point flying with like something like 10,000 meters per second, and that's crazy. That's at that point it becomes not really useful anymore. And so this is, but it's still balancing is still work in progress, so this may change. What else? Maybe we can quickly show the icons, because I think that was already based on a question from last month or 2 months ago. This is you can see in this video here a little bit the progress we've made with the map in the last 2 months, and you can also see that the icons all have changed, and how the ships are classified. I think maybe you turn off our window in the corner so people can see the info menu as well, because I think I'm going to open the info menu here. Yeah, so you can see some of the ship details for the different ships that are on this map here, and what the icons stand for. Maybe Lorraine, you want to say something about the ship types?
So in the design process for the ships, we were aiming for somewhere between X3 and Rebirth, because I think towards the end of X3 a lot of us thought there were too many ship types, and in Rebirth maybe there weren't enough, so we ended up going for, well, the middle ground, funnily enough. The biggest category, or the most important category when it comes to ships interacting with each other, is their size. Small, medium, large, extra small. But within those categories, they also have certain roles. So we have ships that are designed to be more for scouting, and we have ships that are designed to be more for... I guess the word is dogfighting. I don't know what that's called in space. We'll go with dogfighting. Can you just... Oh, no, it's a video, isn't it? The icons that you can see on the map, basically it works in a very similar way as far as I remember to X3. So the triangles are the smallest ships. If they have one stripe underneath them, then they are a medium-sized ship. Large has 2, and then extra large you can see a visible difference. I don't think there are any extra large ships on this video that I can see offhand. On the left hand side, not far away from where the cursor is. Yeah, it's confusing working with a video instead of the actual game. We tried to make it as clear as possible on the map what you were looking at without having to delve too much into different menus. It was trying to keep it simple, basically.
I think we will go over to the different ships and show a couple of examples now. Actually, this here is the Falcon. Yeah, this is really it's a Teladi ship, and I think in this video it's starting from an Osprey. I think that's the video, right? It's yeah. So maybe you could say something about the Osprey. No, not the Osprey.
This is the
Falcon.
This is the new Teladi Falcon. It looks very different from... Well, actually, it doesn't look that different from the old games, but it's been updated somewhat. This is the Teladi's dogfighting ship. In-game, we call them fighters, simply. They are designed to be maneuverable. You can see that they've got the rotating engines here, and the one that's just docking is a Nova, also with rotating engines, also a dogfighter. The idea is to make them maneuverable, not necessarily the quickest ships in a straight line, but they can they're designed to hold their own in combat. So they have, you know, 2 to 4. I think most of them have 2 forward-facing weapons, 2 shields. They're your bulk standard fighters. And they're a lot of fun as well, or at least the Nova and the Falcon are. I haven't tried the Paranid one myself yet.
Maybe we go over to a larger ship, the Kestrel.
The
Kestrel. Oh no, the Kestrel is also a small ship. We have the Peregrine or the Minot. Yeah, just for an extremer comparison there. This is the.
Yeah, the Peregrine, also a Taladi ship. This is the Taladi Bomber ship. I'm hoping the video zooms out eventually so you can see the scale, the difference in size between an M ship and an S ship. But yeah, these ships, the M ships, are more support categories when it comes to the combat ships. Obviously, that size also contains transporters for the more economic players. But here we go. As far as the combat ships go, they are more a support category. So this ship is designed to stand there and, fly around and deliver as much firepower as it can to the enemy as possible. It has 2 forward-facing weapons, but also 4 turrets. I think they are missile turrets to pack a real punch when it comes to fighting other medium ships and capital ships. Does it have a dock on it? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, then I can't point out the difference in scale between the S and the M ships. But not on this example. We have another one coming later, I think.
Yeah. The Minotaur? Is that now?
This is the Argon Bomber now, to compare to the Taladi one. It has actually a very similar setup. It's not as durable as the Taladi Bomber, but it's again, it's slightly more maneuverable. We try to make racial differences in ships so that you can say, okay, the Taladi ships are better at a certain thing, and that might be good for me in one situation, but the Paranid ships are better in a certain situation, and the Argon ships are better in a certain situation. Basically, to give the player as much choice and variety and things that they have to think about as possible, because what's the point in having multiple ships if flying one would be enough? You have to try and make them all interesting. So that's what we try to do.
Yeah, maybe if we now go through the ships, we also have prepared the Discoverer, which we already showed. Yeah, which we already showed. I think in the videos before. And the Nova. Maybe we show these two after one after another, because. But you can see some differences. For example, you also now see the cockpit glass and the visibility, and also, yeah, how do they compare with the what was it, the Falcon?
Yeah.
So before.
So the Argon Discoverer is an all-out scouting ship, so it's much quicker in a straight line. I think I have the numbers in front of me actually. It's 300 meters a second top, straight line speed, as opposed to 190 or 200 for the fighting ships. But in order so that they weren't, overpowered, we thought about what was good, what should be the negative thing about a scout ship, and we thought, okay, they're probably not as maneuverable as the combat ships, so they cannot be used in the same way. You may struggle a little bit more when you're in a dogfight, but you're going to be able to get away or, explore an area of space much more effectively. It's a scouting ship, so exploration is definitely what we had in mind for this.
And you can see the difference when you go to the Nova, pretty obvious, because again the Nova, as the other Argon ship, has again rotatable engines, I think. And
another very important difference that you may or may not already have noticed is the cockpit layout of the Nova gives you, because it's a combat ship and it is meant for dogfighting, it gives you a lot more room to see your enemies around you than you would possibly find in other types of ships that aren't designed for that combat role. And as Bernd already said, the maneuverability with the rotatable engines makes it... I mean, we actually designed the Nova to be possibly the best all-out dogfighter without trying to take away from the other ships because they can hold their own. But this is... Hey, hello. Sorry, we just had a visitor enter the room.
Chris, you can come over.
That's okay, I'll stay here.
Yeah, as I said, we tried to make it so that having multiple ships actually means something. You have to think about what ship is best for you in a certain situation. Are you in a dogfight? Are you trying to stay back and support a little bit? Are you trying to explore what is the best use for me at this moment of time?
I think the last one we haven't shown yet is the Kestrel.
I think we did. That's the one with the guy sitting down at the controls.
The Kestrel?
This is
No, the Kestrel.
this is a Kestrel.
That's I don't know. I don't think we talked about it at least.
No, we haven't talked about it yet. So to put a nice bow on things, this is then the Taladi version of the scouting ship. It's, let me double check before I say something that isn't true. It's actually quicker, I think, than the Discoverer, just about. Has a little bit more shielding, but loses... Sorry, no, I am getting confused. It's not as quick as the Discoverer, but therefore has the better shielding. So it can hold its own a little bit more, but may not be as good as the Discoverer at fleeing the scene, should that be necessary. But it has, because it's a scouting ship, because it is an S ship, it has at least similar capabilities. It doesn't have as many weapons. This one only has one. I believe it has, because it's the Taladi version, it has 2 shields. The Discoverer only has 1. It doesn't carry as many people in it. You may look, you see around you now, the cockpit is not, there's not a lot of room in there. And yeah, it's designed to go very quickly in one direction for a long time. That's what it's good at.
I personally like the Taladi ships in general. I mean,
they are very, very beautiful, actually. They fit the race very well.
Yeah. They're designed to look more, I wouldn't if I say cheaper, it makes it sound bad, but it's cheap in a good way. They are made from I don't know, more robust and
I think frugal might be a good word.
What?
Frugal might be a good word.
Frugal. Okay, I have to look that up.
So using the money efficiently.
Okay, but I like them very much, and it's probably also the ships that many players will start with, because they're, at least if I mean, all of this numbers and things we are saying is of course subject to change potentially in balancing, but they are currently designed to be cheaper than the Argon and also the Paranet ships. But yeah.
Peregrine, I don't think we've shown.
Yeah, we did.
We did. Yeah. We showed that one already. Yeah, I think that's all what we haven't shown yet is though how you upgrade those ships, because I mean you talked a bit about the weapon configurations, and we also have a video where we show a little bit how loadouts can be changed and turrets and can be upgraded. Here the ship is landing at a shipyard, and this is to then later change it. I think this is the Kestrel actually.
This is the Kestrel. Yeah.
And so I mean the menu that you will see later for the configuration is not it's very obviously not finished yet, but we still decided to show it because the really cool thing about it is the modularity and how it shows that you can actually see all the changes on a ship. I mean, if you compare some of the scenes from last month or 2 months ago actually, and also the original launch trailer for X4, you can already see that sometimes you see the same ship with modified weapons, with modified shield generators and missile launchers, but here you can after I now get out of that ship and open the map to open the interface. The way I'm doing this now, by the way, is also definitely not final. There will be different ways how you can initiate the upgrading of a ship. What I'm doing here is I land first and then go basically by going into the map and then giving the commands remotely. I'm doing it in the same way that I can also do it when I'm not on the ship. Of course, I could also send a ship with an NPC pilot to another shipyard far away and then command it to be upgraded. And I can actually also queue that for later. So I don't have to wait for the ship to arrive there. I can say, okay, you fly there and then later you will be upgraded. But in this case, I wanted to land myself and show this. But in that case, I would normally initiate this a little nicer and not from the map. So here I'm opening the interface now from the map. And yeah, this is, as I said, this is all not final yet. But this is how the interface then looks. It shows you the different upgrade parts. And yeah, obviously the sections there are also not final yet. All of the icons are placeholders. But you can see the engines, for example, in the back can be selected and exchanged, and the gimbaling weapons may be exchanged for the lasers that we talked about earlier with different features, shield generators, and so forth. This also shows software updates, upgrades, and other things. So this is not just the interface for the external things, the things you can see on the ship, but also some internal upgrades, like software upgrades, obviously. Currently, the interface is also used to put people on ships, but that's may change, or well, there's also other ways to do it in addition. So yeah, it also looks similar, of course, if you buy a new ship. So that's basically in general the shipyard user interface. And also something that we decided not to show today, but is worth noting, is that a similar interface also exists for modifying station modules. So if I think last 2 months ago we showed station construction, and we showed how you can put together modules, but what we didn't show is that actually each individual module can also be upgraded with loadouts, and these can be missile launchers, shield generators, and things like that, and that works in a very similar way. So you can just use the default loadout, or just say you want to spend a certain amount of money, or you can go down to the detail and configure this yourself. We will show that another month because the interface is just not so nice yet. I don't know, where are we? What maybe we should start by now. Oh yeah, trading. Really? Yeah.
Trading in the game.
Right. There was this question last time about the little dots on the map and what they mean, and I thought maybe we show this a little bit more in detail today. So I prepared a little video again from the game with just one system here. This is what is it called again? This is
Profit Center Alpha.
Profit Center Alpha, yeah, very nice Teladi sector with, as you can see already, some stations uncovered. So the dark area on the map that you can see there is already, yeah, I've either been there recently or I have placed a satellite. In this case, you can see that there's a couple of satellites placed there which give me live information, live update, as would my own ships. And you can see these boxes next to the station give me either information for a single station, or if you zoom out further, accumulate trade information and other information for a group of stations, factories in this case mostly. And the little dots next to the wares is basically how attractive the individual wares are for buying and selling. So you usually have up to 3 wares for buying and 3 wares for selling on every station, and or on a group if you zoom out further, and that's how you can tell what is best to buy, and it always sorts it by that category. But this way you filter the best offers always when you zoom out on the map, and you can also trade when you are zoomed out. And then basically you are not caring that much anymore about the travel distances, because like if I zoom out and see the entire system, and I just see, okay, the cheapest sold where, the best deal basically to buy something would be, what was it? What I didn't, of course I cannot read it from here, but anyway, whatever where is at a very good price. And then you would say, okay, I'm buying it and then I'm selling it also in the same clusters. So you, without seeing which factory exactly you are selling it to, then you can make that deal, but you are not seeing the distances your ships will travel. Or you can zoom in further, and then you see obviously the different stations, and you see maybe there's other opportunities which are not as good, but maybe closer. So yeah, this is a really elegant way of filtering through different offers. And of course you can still also go into each and every station and look for all offers and all the products they have, but normally you don't really have to do that. And what you can also see here in this video is when you, after you click on a where and you select what you want to buy, the interface that pops up next, like now, hopefully, yeah, this one, this also has this little drop down at the top where you can select the ship. So whenever you are there, you can basically give commands to all ships. Normally by default it will start with the one that you selected before. So this is like the intuitive way. You click on a ship, then you click on the where, and then this one is pre-selected already, and this would be the ship that you sent on a trade run. But in this case, for example, I think this is a Vulture, wasn't the ship that I was flying in personally. So I just choose external view, which is also an option in the context menu on the map, to see what's going on. And then I'm just watching it basically from a distance, while my ship, I think, is also in the same system. But yeah, you see the two ships there, the Kestrel and the Vulture. This is actually, currently this is a game start with exactly these two ships, and this whole system is very nearby. So this would be a situation that, if we keep it like that, would be available very early on in the game. But that may change. Yeah. Maybe time to take some questions, because otherwise, yeah. Will you do that?
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I can.
Yeah.
Just
go ahead.
Let's see. Can everyone hear me okay using this? Can we add an audio tech? I'm going to assume that everyone can hear me. So we've got a few questions, and I'm hoping some more will come in. The first one, I'm just going to go through them in the order that I got them. The first one, when we were talking more about the travel, actually came in about the audio design. I hope that we can say something about that. Someone was asking, in X3, each area had its own song. Will the music rotate through a playlist, or are you going for a similar design to X3?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have Alexei with us here. But yeah, we can say something about the goals, of course. There is definitely a lot of different musics for different areas, and we can do that. We can say a certain area should have the same music always, so that you can recognize it by the music. But music is not so much the focus only, because what we are also doing, and what Alexei is doing a lot recently, is designing more atmospheric effects also for areas in space. So it's much more than just the sound of factories, for example. Yeah, object sound effects created by a production, for example. Of course, that's also part of it, but Alexei is aiming to create atmospheric sounds that stand for an area, and then the music would just be a layer on top of it that sometimes comes in, sometimes goes out again. So this is the whole sound design is there's a lot of new things going into that, and I think Alexei is doing an awesome job, and I think you will like it.
The other mic was not working so well. And the other one that came in while we were talking about universe travel, a lot of people are wondering if there's any more information we can give about teleportation, because that was mentioned very early on. The main question was, how will it be implemented? I think that might be too technical for a lot of the audience, but maybe there's some more information we can give.
Yeah, I mean, how it
technically works for the player, I think, is the interesting part. I mean, what we know for sure is how it works when it's maxed out, because this is what we usually use when we cheat. When we test the game, we basically make it available in the maxed out version, as if I would already own the complete player headquarter with maxed out research. And at that moment, you are basically able to right-click on all of your ships and just select teleport. Then it will take a moment. It doesn't go instant. It has a certain low charge up time. But basically, right now at least, this is a very short period of time. And then you teleport to a teleporter room, which every ship has, like there. And this is where you usually come out and walk into the ship. So really just going from one ship to another is possible within seconds, actually, right now. Maybe this is, again, as everything we say in this presentation, subject to change, because it could be that in balancing we find out that this is too powerful, and sometimes we want to limit the player a little bit in how fast he moves and how fast you progress through the game. But I like this very much. It's the ability to not just remote control a large fleet, but actually be in person wherever something interesting is happening. That really makes Cells X4 for me.
And as an interesting side note, at least right now, and I stress right now, when it's maxed out, it will work for stations too. Oh, surprise, yeah. It won't. It's not just your ships, but also any stations you own. It will
no, I think it's more
teleport you to.
Work for stations. I think, yeah.
We'll see. Like the balancing on that is still very much up for discussion. We'll see. We'll see how it ends up. While we were showing off the ships and the upgrading of ships, we got some questions about modding support for X4, being able to add your own ships or add, parts for the ships. Maybe we can say something there.
We can say that we want to do it and we want to make it as good as possible. That's really all we can say, because it's definitely not a priority during development to test it, obviously. I mean, this is something that can really only start after we have something out. But what we do during development is make it possible. I mean, we make the game in a technical regard as modular as possible. And we will later also try to document as much as possible. Do you want to say something on this topic? CBJ is sitting in. No, but yeah, that's what we can say is our intention is to make it as moddable as possible.
The next question, I'm not entirely sure who this is aimed at, actually. Maybe Owen, maybe someone else, I don't know. Player logos. I think maybe we saw some. Right now you can see the white flag of my surrender. That is my player logo. Yeah, it's something you can see it's something we are looking at. We haven't got very far with it yet. It's only in as, some cheating options, but yes, it will be there. There's, and the other another questions. How many? Okay, this is an interesting another interesting ship questions. How many Jäger auf English fighters? How many fighters will a carrier be able to carry? A lot. We are, again, everything is subject to change. We're still very much in the balancing process for this, but we want it to feel like an actual, somewhere between an actual real life aircraft carrier and the Battlestar Galactica. So we're right now, I think our biggest carrier carries up to, I want to say 40. That is just off the top of my head, though. 40 small ships and 15 M ships, I think. But we'll write these questions down later, and I'll make sure to have the facts straight before I give any more information on that. I'm just going to continue listing off. Will X4 have track IR support?
CBJ, say something. He's just nodding. Yes, that means yes. Okay, so it's CBJ's word, even if you don't say anything. Yeah, I think so.
And the final one I have on my list, unless my helpers give me any more in the next few seconds, can you be non-human this time, and if so, will it affect anything? Like we said very briefly at the beginning, we have different game starts that put the player in a different situation with a different backstory, and all of those characters that the player then experiences are different. I think at the moment one is a Teladi, one is a Paranid, and one is a Split, and the other two are Argon. So yes, whether or not it will affect anything, we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
I think it will affect how high you are above the floor.
There you go. It may change your camera height. I don't think it does right now.
There is code that is supposed to do that, but I would have to check if it works for Teladi.
Okay.
I was playing a Teladi and I was surprised I am a Teladi, maybe, but after I suddenly see myself in the cockpit. But yeah.
Yeah. How many people are working on X4 right now? That's an interesting one, and completely safe to ask. How many people work here? 20?
Yeah, 20 here, but okay.
It's about 20 people working. That's the full team working on X4.
Well, yeah, if you
now.
A couple extra
Yeah. Let me go back to Twitch chat because Skype has failed me.
Yeah, can I have it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just maybe one thing that I forgot to mention before, but which you can see all throughout today's videos, is also the improvement of the HUD, and especially the new logbook monitor. Logbook monitor is not message ticker. Yeah, in the lower left corner. That's at least in the default setup. You now have 3 monitors, and the lower left one, the message ticker, is really nice. It gives you everything that comes in. It also works, I think that's also visible in 1 or 2 videos, also integrates mission management, so you don't have these free floating mission interface elements anymore, like progress bars when you fly in a mission based on time, for example. And everything that you see there, or most of the things you see there, then go into the logbook. So you can also click on that monitor, or you can click on an individual event in that monitor and go to the more detailed menu. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. I am hunting for more questions.
Don't have that much time anymore anyway.
It's a very quick one because someone was asking, and I clearly didn't make myself very clear. Does the player have a body? Yes, the player has a body, and it will be a Teladi if you're playing a Teladi, or an Argon if you're playing an Argon or a Paranid, or whatever. Yes, the definitive answer is yes.
Whatever left something over. we won't go into detail there. Whatever means.
People are of course asking about boron
Yeah.
again.
Why are you saying that?
Because it's in the chat all the time.
Clearly that's not in. I mean, I think we've mentioned that in last month or 2 months ago already. Boron are for the moment not possible. We would love to do that, but it's just. Especially with this detail, with this level of detail that we are doing here, when you can actually be one yourself and in a cockpit, it wouldn't be good to just be a boron sitting on a chair. You want to be a real boron, and we would love to do that in the future, but that will be a big project. So maybe.
Just saw another question. Do you have to use large ships like in Rebirth for trading, or can you use any ship to trade? And
you can use any ship for trade. Yes,
any ship for trading.
I think if you
I don't know if you can rewind this recording on Twitch here and watch the trade videos again. You will see that there's in most of them I have the Kestrel and the Vulture. The Vulture is an M ship. The Kestrel is an S ship. So the storage capacity is of course much bigger on the Vulture, but you can use the Kestrel as well for trading, and of course it also makes sense in some cases when it's faster and when you are trading with something really valuable, or if you get more S ships quicker than you get an M ship because they are cheaper or because you get them in a fight. So yeah, lots of different cases possible there. Okay,
I think that's...
Yeah, I think we slowly have to get to the end anyway now. Maybe teasing a little bit of what we could do next time. I don't know. I don't want to promise exactly when we go live with this the next time, but we will definitely get a few more times live talking about X4. And one thing that we have in mind that we could talk about next time is a bit about the people management, NPCs that work for you, and crew for ship as well as for stations. How you do that? How they get better? How they affect your stations and your ships and all of that. And that's also something that we are currently working on, and that hopefully we can show more of the next time we go live. So yeah, thanks everybody who was there, and see you again soon in the X universe.
Bye.
Okay.